The DXY, or the US dollar index, is already falling and the printing didn't even begin yet. We got a 0.25 basis point rate cut last night. And what does this mean for the market? What did the Fed just do? Essentially, Jerome Powell, before he is stepping out in about 6 months, is turning on the money printer. And this is technically very, very bullish for stocks. Yet we aren't seeing the 100% positive reaction we should be seeing overall, which is stocks going up, altcoins going up, everything squeezing, rallying higher, and there's a reason for it. First of all, one of the reasons I believe is that there are mixed signals. First of all, the Fed said that they, of course, cut rates, but they may be cutting a little bit less in 2026. So now we are on this sort of cautious bullish stance instead of being 100% bullish. Another reason I believe that isn't technically being covered is the carry trade, the repo markets, everything that we talked about while the markets were selling off recently, all of that pressure. We clearly seen that banks needed liquidity. Now banks are getting a bit of liquidity, but they're going to be getting more liquidity, and that actually begins tomorrow, December 12th, when the Fed does their first T-bill buyback program worth about $40 billion a month. Now, what does this do? They buy these off of the banks. This gives banks more liquidity. That means more money can be thrown into our markets and stay in our markets. However, I think that they needed liquidity in general. So right now you're getting this sort of buffer to where they're kind of break even on their maybe collateral or maybe positions that they otherwise would have had to unwind due to collateral issues or margin or something along the lines of that. Now I'm going to give you very simple lines in the sand for these markets because they are very much so whipsaw back and forth, and it's very annoying to a lot of traders. So, well, traders maybe, maybe not, but investors at least. The SPY has been trading sideways, and it's very simple. Pay very close attention. This is all in my opinion. I don't give financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. If the SPY closes above 589.80, 689.80, my apologies. If the SPY closes a daily candle above 689.80, we are likely in and entering a much bigger bullish move towards 714 on the SPY. Now, if the SPY closes a candle below 681, you are going to see likely 674 on the SPY. Write those down, take a picture if you will, and I'm going to leave it that simple. I'm not going to go into any more details for now. As far as Bitcoin goes, and we're going to talk about AMC, what's going on with that, because the shareholder meeting just went by. Bitcoin, crypto as a whole, same thing, similar setup. When risk on sentiment really comes back, I think Bitcoin is going to lag a little bit, and you're going to see these altcoins get their move, especially seeing how low they are. Couple of picks: Bonk, Sui, Chainlink, Solana. There are a couple others as well, but simple. If Bitcoin closes above 102,000, you're likely to see 109, maybe higher, but that's to evaluate later. If we close above under 82,700, you're likely to see 74,000 to maybe 72. And again, this is not trying to give you a macro perspective. It's if this, then that. And right now, we are choppy. So watch for serious momentum. I think that's going to come over the weekend because that injection, that liquidity injection we get tomorrow on a Friday. Again, probably unlikely that the markets are red tomorrow. And if they are red tomorrow, probably not a crazy idea for calls into next week. Again, not financial advice, not a financial advisor. We will evaluate further in the top link of the description. We'll take you to the Discord server if you want to talk more about those possible trade scenarios. What happened with the AMC shareholder meeting? AMC just doubled its float. Kind of. Technically, they didn't yet, but the shareholder meeting, the shareholders approved the dilution on AMC, which was a proposed addition. Sorry, I'm trying to move around the sun. Which was a proposed addition to basically double the float from 500 and I believe, or 550 million shares to 1.1 billion shares, which is disgusting, in my opinion. Now, at this point, I mean, I don't buy any more AMC. There are a lot of issues. 59% of shareholders voted. There are possibilities as to who that was. Could have been institutions, could have been shareholders. Long story short, the vote was technically passed, and yet majority did vote. 59% of shareholders ended up voting. I find that not necessarily odd, because I know a lot of people were for whatever the company needs, we'll give it to them. And as far as the other proposals, there was like 7 other ones. Those likely got passed as well, but there's not a full press release out on that just yet, whether they did or not. I have bearish news for AMC, but just to top it off, HYMC rallied another 6% today, coming all the way up to $13, $12.99, after AMC sold. But again, they still have some warrants riding down here. Yeah, there's just a lot of issues. Okay, the assumption on the cycles, and this is just going to be my call out for where these are at, especially since AMC is diluted now. And this is very tough, and I'll explain why it's tough. The reason it's tough is because if we're assuming risk on assets are going to squeeze higher, it's very odd that AMC should drop lower. But we have to remember that they just doubled their float, and we're trading at $2.20. I mean, the drop could be bad. Based on the cycle patterns that we are seeing, this is something that you're looking for on AMC. You are looking for essentially a drop where we eventually go sub $2. And it's going to be choppy. It's going to be slow. The investment is overall not fundamentally good right now. GameStop's painting a little bit of a different story, and I'll tell you about that right after I tell you that Robinson Mark Heyman bought the dip on GameStop. We can see that he bought almost 10,000 shares. Beautiful thing to see, as always. GameStop in the same cycle. This is where we're at in the cycle, I believe. And after doing some closer valuations, this is truly where I do believe we are trading at. And I'll show you the possibilities and the levels that we could be seeing going forward on GameStop. This is the pattern that it looks like we're trading on GME, where we are coming down towards 21 even or 21.30 before rallying higher. What will that rally do? Where will it take us? And how is it different from AMC? How are they going to go separate from one another? Well, one company has a ton of cash on hand. The other company has a ton of debt on hand and is diluting shareholders. Okay. GameStop's isn't actually dilution. It's actually just temporary debt that they can pay in cash. Now, there are, again, this is supposed to be a very simplistic video. Here's what we should see on that rally higher. When we move higher, we should be seeing, we have light resistance. This is at 2350. It also happens to be this ascending channel that we just got rejected off of. The next somewhat light resistance is 25. After this, you have heavier resistance. The heavier resistance for this move is going to be 2645 and 2830, 2831. Okay, at these resistance levels, GameStop at some point, if we finish the cycle, will have an aggressive rejection. Now, the level where we'll see some serious pressure, if we even got there, is somewhere in between these two resistance levels, and that is $33.70 and 28.31. That is, we have a conversion value right here, so you're going to see a little pressure as soon as you start fighting this, right? That tries to push you down if we get there. And then also coming up higher, you have the rejection at this ascending channel, which is right around that conversion price. That's also at the psychological resistance right here, all lining up right at this crosshair towards the end and beginning of another possible different type of cycle. After that, obviously, if you rally higher, you squeeze, you break 33.70. you're also over that warrant exercise price. Then you have to get over that tripwire at 38.81, which we talked about. Above that, you're likely to just squeeze. But essentially, guys, this is what we're looking at on the chart, really. And if risk assets are going to get pumped, which is what's looking more and more likely in the short term, but again, a little bit of caution, that is likely what's going to happen. Unfortunately, I don't see the same thing happening with AMC. But does AMC have to fall further? Here is where I give you the bright scenario on AMC, where I could very much so be wrong for all the shareholders. And I'm a shareholder of AMC as well. Again, very much a shareholder. We have played out this pattern. If we look from a smaller scale, this low rebound into a squeeze, we've played out this pattern more times than you can count. There's a pattern right here for it. Squeeze. I mean, there's a pattern back here for it. Squeeze. Right here for it. Squeeze. We could be right on the verge of that same move with GameStop. And to even top it off better from a technical, this is all from a technical perspective instead of a fundamental perspective. The last time we had some sort of dilution down here, right? We had some sort of dilution right here, right? If you're seeing dilution and the same setup, who's to say we won't squeeze? Okay, so a little bit of optimism for all the AMC shareholders and AMC investors out there from a technical standpoint, aside from a fundamental standpoint. You have this very much psychological and fib resistance at $44 if we get into some sort of ballsy squeeze here. And that would be a disgusting, absurd gain for AMC, about 2,000%. Okay, very optimistic technical perspective on it, aside from the fundamental perspective. We ran on dilution twice. We ran on this pattern twice. But doubling the float to try and stay up isn't enticing for shareholders to want to jump in and buy. But overall, guys, that is what I got for you for today's video. Hopefully you enjoyed watching or found value out of the video. My apologies, the video went up later. I had a birthday party for my sister. Was chilling with the fam at some breakfast, so it's been a long day. But that is it, guys. I wanted to keep it short, sweet, simple, to the point, kind of give you an update as to what's going on. The Fed is pumping liquidity in. Powell wants to print money, devalue the dollar, and make markets and everything look beautiful and amazing before he gets out of office, likely. That way, who's to blame? The next Fed chair is to blame when we can't really fight inflation and things need to collapse and other things like that. All of this is bullish coming into 2026. Bullish for risk on assets, bullish for altcoins, GameStop, AMC, right? Things like that. Join the Discord, top link in the description. Also, if you want to join through LaunchPass instead, that's down here, about the fourth link in the description. That'll take you right here. If you want my custom indicator, that'll take you here. You can get it 7 days for free. Use my custom indicator. That is it, guys. I love you all. God bless. Lottery Stocks out.